What is a watershed? Whether you've heard this word before or it's entirely new to you, watersheds are super important to everyone watching this video. Because guess what? We all live on one. Watersheds obviously have something to do with water, but the definition is a little more complicated than that. But before I reveal the definition, let's see if you already know what a watershed is. Here are 4 options. Is it a shed on the water? A dog shedding water? Water itself, like this ocean right here. Or the land around a body of water. Which of these 4 things do you think it is? Well, if you said the land, you were correct. So a watershed's not this shed on the water. It's not even the water itself. It is all that land that you see surrounding the water. To be exact, a watershed is an area of land that sheds water into a body of water downhill. An area of land that sheds water into a body of water downhill. Let's deconstruct the word watershed to help us better understand its definition. Well, our pet corn snake Maze here can help us understand that definition just a little bit better. If you know anything about snakes, you might know that they shed their skin as they grow. As Maze's body grows, his old skin falls off. This is what we call shedding. And we can see some evidence of his recent shed right here. He still has some tiny pieces of skin falling off the side of his body. Now, of course, when a snake sheds, it refers to skin falling off of the snake. But when we're talking about watersheds, it refers to water falling off of the land. And if you've ever worn a rain jacket, guess what? You have shed water. When water falls on a surface like a rain jacket or a window, gravity pulls it downward. That's exactly what happens when precipitation falls on the land. Take the mountain at the Nature Center here, for example. On a warm, sunny day like today, there's not much water running off the ground. But when it rains, the mountain starts shedding water downhill into the Lehigh River below. All land sheds water, and that includes mountains like we have at Lehigh Gap Nature Center, and cities like Allentown and Philadelphia. In the city, gravity pulls the water down the gutters, into storm drains, and then out through pipes into the local river or stream. So now we know the definition of watershed. It's an area of land that sheds water into a body of water downhill. Okay, so now we understand what a watershed is. And as we saw earlier, when it rains on the Lehigh Gap Nature Center, the land sheds its water into the Lehigh River. But our watershed is a lot bigger than just our property. And in order to see just how big our watershed is, let's climb into our helicopter and get a better look from the sky. We're approaching the Lehigh Gap Wildlife Refuge in our helicopter. Now, it looks like it's starting to rain, but this will give us a good example of a watershed in action. As you look out across the refuge, notice how all this land is sloped down toward the Lehigh River. That means that every drop of rain that's falling right now is either going to run into that river or go into the ground. Now, as we fly up even higher, let's take a look at the watershed around us. The Lehigh Gap Wildlife Refuge below us here is part of an even larger watershed. And watersheds are always named after the body of water that they shed their water into. The Lehigh River watershed includes the 1,300 square miles of land highlighted in blue below us. All this land sheds its water into the Lehigh River. But that water doesn't stop at the Lehigh River. The Lehigh River empties its water into the Delaware River in the city of Easton. Because that water that fell in the Lehigh Gap ends up in the Delaware River, the Lehigh Gap Nature Center is also on the Delaware River watershed. The Delaware River watershed includes all 13,000 square miles of land highlighted in purple below. All of this land, which includes sections of Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Delaware, sheds its water into the Delaware River. From there, the water flows into the Delaware Bay and then the Atlantic Ocean. The Lehigh River isn't the only major tributary of the Delaware River. There's also the Schuylkill River, the Cooper River, and countless others that all have watersheds within the Delaware River watershed. So 13,000 square miles of land shed water into the Delaware River. That's cool, but why should we care about it? Do you live in Philadelphia, the Poconos, the Lehigh Valley, Reading, Wilmington, Camden, or Trenton? Then you impact the Delaware River. Because all of those places are connected by the watershed, anything that happens in any of those places can impact the Delaware River. Here's one house on the watershed. Notice that there's a piece of litter in the front yard. But does it really matter if there's one piece of litter on the watershed? Of course, when a storm comes along, that piece of litter will blow away. It will wash up the land into the nearest river and make its way out to the ocean, where you might find it laying along a beach like this. Now let's multiply this across the entire watershed. Imagine if every house in every city, in every town, in every rural area across the watershed had just one little piece of litter in their yard. Imagine how that would add up. Then before you know it, rivers look like this. And beaches look like this. And that's bad for the wildlife who live in that water. And it's bad for people who depend on that water for drinking, bathing, brushing their teeth, recreation, and so on. 15 million people depend on the Delaware River watershed for drinking water. And this is exactly why it's so important to understand and teach people about watersheds. The health of the land around us directly affects the health of the water that we and our friends and neighbors depend on. Let's all work together to take care of that watershed so that the Delaware River remains fishable, swimmable, and drinkable for generations to come.